Let's talk about the VSI and ILS approach.
Okay, we're going to talk about the electronic attitude indicator, which is EADI, and the EHSI, which is the electronic horizontal situation indicator. Number one is this. You can see that we have on the attitude indicator ATT1.
Correct.
What ATT1 means that the autopilot is using information from number one attitude indicator.
Number one attitude indicator?
HDG1 means that the autopilot is using heading information from number one, which is the left side.
996, Cleveland Center, Roger, Detroit, altimeter 3001.
Okay?
Yeah.
On top of the attitude indicator, we have those green indication.
Correct.
This is the mode selected on the flight director. ALT means we're selected altitude on the flight director. Nav means we're on nav mode. That means we're following the GPS.
And the green color, basically all the green color is the GPS, so it's...
Right? HB right there means half bank. If you're selecting heading mode, you're at half bank. It's not as steep, which is half standard rate turn. If standard rate turn is 3 degrees per second, you're using half land. YD, which is yaw damp, means yaw damp is on, and AP means autopilot is on. Okay? On top we have the blue, which is the sky, and the brown, which is
4996,
the ground.
Cleveland 132.45.
3245 for
There is a trend vector here. If you're not accelerating or decelerating, you have slowing down or slow or fast right there on the left side. And you have an inclinometer, which is a mechanical side of the electronic attitude indicator, which shows you slip and skid information. So, this is pretty much going to wrap up the indication. Now, the information provided into this instrument is coming from the AHRS. And the AHRS is Attitude and Heading Reference System. It's an electronic box that, just like the Dyne and D1, it will sense pitch and roll information and send it to the attitude indicator. Okay? You have option to select AHRS 1, which is number 1 AHRS, or number 2, which is number 2 AHRS. So you have redundancy. If one AHRS fail, you can get information from the other side.
I choose 1 and 2 over here.
Okay, so you can select
AC 5932,
heading
please,
mode.
Roger, amend altitude to maintain flight level 240.
Okay, now we're on heading mode. And you can go ahead and select right there on the button on the left, on your left side. Go ahead and push. Okay, go on. But basically, if you push AHRS 1 over there, you select AHRS 2, and it's going to give you attitude 2 and heading 2. You're using the other side.
This one.
That was 6331.
No. This is navigation. This is the GPS.
0.32. Good day.
AHRS, we said, it's in the avionics inside. It's inside the avionics, underneath, behind, that's where it is, in the avionics.
Jet 45, it's in maintain flight level 2.
So we have AHRS 1 and AHRS 2, okay? When we're going down here, we have the electronic HSI. The electronic HSI has heading information.
Delta 2287, 11.
And where is the electronic HSI getting the heading information from?
300.
Where is getting from?
Yeah, the electronic HSI right now. Where is it getting the heading information from?
I don't know.
We mentioned the AHRS, which is the attitude and heading reference system.
Cleveland Center, climb maintain flight level 300.
So the AHRS, other than providing attitude information for the attitude indicator, it will provide heading information for the HSI. Okay? Now, when you're looking at the indication here for HSI, you get...
That's the electronics. How is it when on a 6-pack regular, what is it's going to the indication?
The heading indication?
The magnetic system.
Compass and directional gyro. On a regular 6-pack, you have a directional gyro, which is a heading indicator, and it will give you heading information
32, maintain flight level 250.
based on your gyros. Its vacuum-driven gyro will maintain a precise heading. But it's not as good as AHRS. AHRS is much more precise. You have... Every 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you have to reset your heading indicator to whatever you hold.
Maintain 11,000.
Okay? Now back to the HSI here. On the HSI, you have a lot of information. You have GPS information, which is derived from GPS 1, which is the Garmin 530, which is selected here. You have GPS 2, which is Garmin 430. You can slave it to number 2 if you want. Now we're getting information from GPS 1. Desired track for Robbinsville on the Garmin 530 is 100.
900 Hotel Sierra, contact Cleveland Center on 127.9er.
127.9er, 900 Hotel Sierra. So long.
Yeah.
Good evening, Cleveland. Pilatus 900 Hotel Sierra. Flight load 230, direct Robbinsville.
Number 900 Hotel Sierra, Cleveland Center, roger.
To the right, we have heading 1, which HSI is getting information from AHRS 1, which is the heading reference, AHRS, which is attitude and heading reference system. Reference system 1 is right there. We have 423 nautical miles, which is to our next checkpoint of RBV, not destination.
I mean to the next...
It's 422 to your checkpoint on the 530.
Correct.
Below that, you have 297 knots, which is your ground speed. And what do you have below that?
The time, 1:25.
1 hour and 25 minutes to get to your... So if you're looking at these two instruments, you can derive everything you want from here, other than altitude. Okay? Attitude, heading, course selected, desired track, distance, speed, estimated time to checkpoint, what AHRS you're using, what mode selected on the flight director, and if autopilot is on and if yaw amp is on. Everything on these two electronic boxes. Now, to the right of the HSI, what do we have?
Altimeter.
Altimeter. This is a mechanical type altimeter. It's got pitot and, it's got static. And that static provides altimeter indication, altitude indication. Depending on your pressure altitude, it will give you... And then you can select altimeter setting on the window, and you have standard, and you have millibar on the left side. Below that, what do we have?
The VSI, vertical speed.
Vertical speed indicator, just rate of climb, rate of descent. Just to the left of that, what do we have?
Airspeed indicator.
Beautiful. On the airspeed indicator, we have 0 all the way up to 350. We have a green arc.
Yeah.
We have a red line. And we have a white arc.
Correct.
The white arc is basically for the flaps.
Yep.
The green arc,
basic safe operation.
the bottom of the green arc is the stall speed at 0 flaps or clean configuration. The bottom of the white arc, just like any other airplane, is stall speed with full flaps, 40 degrees. And what is it? Look how low it is.
65.
like 65 knots. It's pretty good, 65.
For this
Beautiful.
Full flaps.
Full flaps. Landing gear down, landing configuration. Full flaps, landing gear down, and 40 degrees of flaps. Full flaps, landing gear down, and power off. Throttle to power to idle. Below the airspeed indicator, we have an RMI. Okay. RMI, you have functioning. You can slave it to ADF, you can slave it to nav. And you have VR1, ADF1, and VR2 and ADF. So depends on what you're using, you can use both on the RMI.
Yep.
So let's look at the map.
ADF, automotive.
And let's select, you have the map over there somewhere? Up the map. I'll show you how to use the RMI. Let's pop the map and look at the, it's not this one, it's the other one.
The short approach control 126.22, good day.
2622, Delta 45, good day.
You have it somewhere.
No, I gave it to you. Check your side. Or it's on the bottom there.
Oh, give me some light. Give me light here.
There you go. You got it. Yeah, you see those two maps? Bring them up. Excellent. Take this to your side over there. Keep it.
AC 4346, Cleveland Center, climb and maintain 16,000, the Cleveland altimeter 3001. Stand by.
Let me get the,
What?
oh, you can, twist it to a radio station and you can see the ADF. I'll show you. You see here, COM5. Auxiliary. Check. 1, 2, 3. Check.
Frontier 525 Alpha Cleveland Center, climb and maintain flight level 230.
Okay, right here you can see 347, which is the frequency. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's frequency, but you can flip them, but it doesn't have, what is this, KR87. It's supposed to have on the audio panel a way to listen to the ADF, but it doesn't look like this ADF has connection to the audio panel, so technically you can't really listen to the ADF. All you can see if it's working or not. You can't really listen to the Morse code. So I think what happened here on this aircraft, they had an audio panel with ADF. They replaced it with
Sierra, contact Cleveland Center 134.9er today.
134.9er, November 900 Hotel Sierra. So long. Good evening, Center, Pilatus 900 Hotel Sierra, flight level 230, direct Robbinsville.
900 Hotel Sierra, Cleveland Center.
But basically, what is RMI? RMI is radio magnetic indicator. What it does, whatever you select, either ADF or a VO or a VOR, it will give you the direction to that
Location.
to that nav aid, if it's an ADF or VR or whatever it is, it'll give you the direction to that.
Now, which one is going to the green? Let's say, I mean, the green is...
The green is 1, the yellow is 2. See it? You have different selection. You have one for the pilot, one for the co-pilot. So let's assume you want to know where Port Wayne VR is. You know what? Let's call it Mansfield VR, 108.8. You're going to select 108.8 over here. And you're going to go nav. And 108.8 is about 2 o'clock. And look, you see it's pointing.
Which one? The green?
Yeah, the green is pointing there.
Yeah.
And let's try Buckeye, Marion, 109.8 on this one. 109.8. Okay, and select it to nav 2. Buckeye is to the right behind us.
This doesn't show me different.
Switch it again. There you go, see? You have one for ADF, one for nav. You want it on nav because nav is the VOR.
No.
ADF is this instrument. It's different. So you can select nav or ADF. If you want to go to the VOR, you have to select nav. If you want to go to the ADF, you select ADF.
So this is now nav.
Correct. Now it's on nav. Now, let me ask you another question.
Let's go to this one over here.
I want to go to this guy here, which is dryer. 113.60. Show me how I find direction to dryer, VR.
13.6, that's VR.
Yep. Up, up, up. Watch, that's radio. Go to nav, push that button here, and then excellent. And what do you select, nav or ADF?
Nav.
Nav. Now both on nav. Nav 1 is indicating to the left.
Yep. Now it doesn't show you the distance, right?
No, it doesn't have distance measuring. But we have this one too, is 113.6
here. How do you know if you reach the point? I mean, let's say you fly this heading.
113.6 now is spinning also to that area. So now we have both nav 1 and nav 2 RMI to dryer, which is 13.
How you put the second one on? What's
The second one is the 430, Garmin 430. The 530 is the first one.
So 1 and 2, okay.
Now we got 13.6 on 1, 13.6 on 2. Both RMIs are showing dryer, which is about 10 o'clock position.
RMI, what's RMI again?
Radio magnetic indication.
1235, flight maintain, flight level 220.
Now you ask about, it was a good question. On a regular VOR, you have 2 farm indication. How do you know with an RMI when you're passing the station?
When you pass, it's going to switch upside down.
Switch, just like an ADF. It's gonna give you complete 180 and it show that the station is behind you. So let's assume we're turning to a heading of 040. After we cross the VOR, it's gonna point to 220 right behind us because we passed it.
Level 2676, Cleveland approach 124.0.
124.0.
Okay.
So you gotta go to the point, pass it, and then come back, try to look for it.
That's right.
So it's good to have the DME, destination measuring equipment, so it's perfect over there.
Well, if you're doing an ADF approach, which is an NDB approach, that's the only way for you to do the NDB. Because this is your primary navigation. You can back it up with the Garmin, but this is your primary ADF.
Oh, but it's good to have the distance measuring equipment so you know how far you're from the station.
Absolutely, you can use the Garmin to back it up. But most of those NDB approaches are getting rare now. It's all GPS, so GPS is more precise, especially if you have WAAS. Yeah, especially if you have WAAS.
Explain me the WAAS again.
On top of that, here you have on top of the airspeed, you have acceleration, which is positive G's, negative G's, right there. So it records if you have some rough ride, and you can actually record maximum load factor in the aircraft, and negative and positive on this G meter here.
Explain me the WAAS on the GPS. WAAS without the WAAS.
Okay, you should have the WAAS information on your terminal procedures. And when you pop it open, on the legend, it'll tell you exactly what is what.
Because I know it costs like 4,000 extra for the WAAS on the GPS.
Yeah, because it's more precise. It's got different equipment. A GPS WAAS is using ground-based navigation to back up the satellites, and it's making it much more precise. And I'll explain in a second. There it is. WAAS. Wide Area Augmentation System. This is WAAS, the definition. And to simplify WAAS, because
November 400 Alpha Charlie.
the Garmin GPS is, other than satellites, backed up with ground-based. It's more precise, and you can use vertical guidance to the runway other than just
440-774
lateral guidance, which means it will give you precision approach information with WAAS. That means it will give you a glide slope indication and course deviation.
Localizer to
CDI, yeah, like CDI, exactly. Well, when you're doing a GPS approach.
And if
It's much more precise.
Exactly
okay, let's say we got it now, we don't have WAAS. What do we select? What kind of information you have?
Everything you're going to do the same, but when you're WAAS selected and the approach is approved for WAAS,
Good evening, Cleveland, Delta 1946.
you're going to have LPV.
400 Alpha Charlie, Roger. That's all they want to know.
On the Garmin.
Cleveland, Delta 1946, passing 9 for 12,000.
And
Delta 1946, Cleveland, climb maintain.
LPV
level 230.
Roger, climb to flight level 230, Delta
is
1946.
localizer performance with vertical guidance. So you'll see here, you see it says en route?
Yep.
On the Garmin it will say LPV. When it says LPV, you have localizer performance with vertical guidance. It's like an ILS approach. And when you look at the instrument approach procedure, which is, let's open it up, GPS approach, runway 5, bam. You look at the minimums, we have LPV decision altitude of 291, which is 300 feet and half a mile.
On the stairs with the other 16.6 for the 15,000.
And
73 Romeo Sierra, Cleveland.
LNAV MDA is 524, so it's more than
400 Alpha Charlie. It's all
more than 200 feet lower on your MDA or decision altitude, because
So the
LPV is more precise. It's like an ILS. Okay. You can look at the touchdown zone elevation here, and it is 7 and 291, so you're 284 feet AGL.
Yep.
And half a mile, 2,400 RVR. That's almost like an ILS approach. ILS is usually 200 feet above touchdown zone elevation and half a mile. This is, so it's giving you vertical guidance. It's much more precise with WAAS. So if you're doing a lot of GPS approaches and you're flying into a lot of remote airports that does not have ILS approach or equipment for an ILS approach, and all they have is GPS approach, a Garmin GPS WAAS is much more beneficial for you if you're flying hardcore IFR instruments
Somebody else asked about
and going into small airports with, you know, GPS.
Let's see what Belmo level. Maybe we can have a GPS approach in Belmo. If we could.
Hold on.
Yeah, let me pull it up 1 second. That's right here. There it is, New York, New Jersey.
Out to 1946, clear direct Ohio.
Pull out.
Thank you, direct Ohio, cell 1946.
Put this one over here.
Belmont. Yeah, go ahead.
373 Romeo Sierra, cross Keaton at
Look at
maintain
Belmont.
11,000.
Keaton at 11, 373 Romeo Sierra.
New Jersey. Let's see what they have for us. BLM. Belmar.
Delta 2344, traffic's at 11 o'clock in, 6 miles eastbound at 230 Pilatus.
Okay, that's us. He's got traffic for us.
900 Hotel Sierra at 2 o'clock and 5 miles now. There's an Airbus out there at 220.
Pilatus 900 Hotel Sierra. We got the bus in sight. He's right there, 2 o'clock low. How's it
Number 3 Romeo Sierra, the Cleveland approach 118.15.
1815 through Sugar Day.
See him right there, Pilatus?
1210, climb maintain flight level 230.
Yeah. You have GPS 14 on your big charts?
Hold on, sorry. For 4757, 15,000.
Doug 4757, Cleveland Center, roger.
Oh, man. No fact.
1235, climb maintain flight level 280.
It looks pretty close, but he's good. Wow. 1,100 feet below us now. Yep.
Pitch is 1210, Cleveland 126.
You have the big charts right there for the Belmar? Right there, maybe? Check it out, pull it out. Yeah. Check over here somewhere.
Delta 2344, contact Cleveland Center 127.9er.
This is all Omaha. Omaha, and check right here. What's this guy? That's supposed to be... Yeah, that's Belmar. Okay, Belmar, very good. Let me ask you this. Do you have GPS 14? Do you have? Yep. Do you have GPS 32?
I have everything. Find the flight level 270.
You have GPS 32?
I have all of them.
And do you have VR Alpha? Yep. That's it. That's all we need. That's it. Yep. That's it. That's all we need.
4336, climb maintain flight level 230.
Okay, you can put this back. We got all the charts we need.
Yeah, the back for the plastic bag.
Should be.
United 1235, Cleveland 119.87.
Cleveland United 1073 checking on out at 22.5 for 190 at Wargo.
That's okay.
1073, roger.
That's okay. No worries. We'll take care of that. No worries. Don't worry.
And put it under it, so it's... Hold it.
Okay. Let's pop the chart and let's look at it. On this chart, we have GPS 14.
Maintain flight level 270.
Does not have LPV, so there's no WAAS approach in there, okay?
13280.
LPV is only WAAS.
LPV is wide augmentation,
United 1073, cross Sabre at maintain 10,000.
which is ground
10,000 United 1070.
based.
Doug 4757.
Back up. Okay, we got
maintain 10,000.
LNAV also, which is not
November
WAAS.
400 Alpha Charlie, contact
And
Cleveland
Alpha
Center now
approach.
135.
So going into Belmar, you don't have WAAS approach, you don't have ILS approach, you don't have precision approach. All you have is non-precision approach, okay? So you're down to 501 mile visibility. You can't go below 1 mile. Maybe runway 32, still 1 mile. VOR Alpha, still 1 mile. So no matter how you look at it, you cannot go precision. You don't have the ability to go down to half a mile visibility on the approaches into Belmar, okay? So 1 mile visibility. The other approaches we saw before had precision, had LPV, which is right here. So on this approach, you will not have LPV. You will have LNAV. That's the best you can do for this one. Okay? Yep. Any questions in regards to the instruments?
How to set up the ILS approach?
How to set up an ILS approach. Okay. Now it's on GPS on the mode selector. Okay? You gotta go here and select nav, and when you select nav, you have to select localizer, LOC. Now it's on GPS.
4757.
When you select this button, it's going to go LOC. Now,
2040, check, please.
you can't do it right now because if we do it right now, it's going to disconnect. The autopilot's not going to know where to follow because now the autopilot's following nav, which is GPS, so that's what's locked up.
Basically, you're going to put the frequencies in both of them, or one of them if you want.
4336, climb maintain, flight level 280.
Go to nav, check the ILS, and switch it to the runway you want to use.
Correct.
You're going to align this to the runway, right? Or you're going to himself align? It's going to align automatically, or you're going to align?
No, you have to set the course selector on the...
Course selector, whatever the course.
Yeah, you see over here it says course? Yeah.
4336, contact.
You have to set whatever course you have on the ILS. So you have course, you have to set localizer, and you have to put the localized frequency also too.
Squawk 21.
And then you go to the flight plan, I guess, select approach,
Yeah, if you want to load up the approach on the Garmin, you're going to select approach, ILS approach, whatever the runway, 1432, whatever it is, and then you can back it up with it.
Okay, so as soon as selected, activated, how you activate it? Like you press any...
You activate it here. There's no way to activate it on the flight director. On the flight director, all you do is select nav localizer, set the frequency on the Garmin, and on the course selector, you're going to select whatever the course selector is into that ILS.
It's going to follow it. So you can still use this plus the autopilot, or when you use this...
Absolutely. If you are on localizer and you select the frequency here, and you select the localizer inbound course here, and you select nav on the flight director, it's going to lock up and intercept that course. When you select approach, it's more precise, and it's going to be in approach mode, and it's going to follow the localizer all the way down to the runway. Now you have to make sure the autopilot's on. If the autopilot's not on,
He's going to follow the glide slope?
On approach mode? Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. It's an ILS approach. It's going to follow the glide slope.
And you land hand-free land?
You need to disconnect the autopilot. Technically, at 200 feet AGL, which is generally on the ILS approach, which is decision height, you got to disconnect the autopilot and hand fly the airplane.
200 feet, I mean,
some of these higher,
900 Hotel Sierra, Cleveland 126.72.
126.72, 900 Hotel Sierra. So long. Good evening, Cleveland, Pilatus 900 Hotel Sierra, flight level 230, direct Robbinsville.
I left the frequency you called.
Affirmative, Pilatus 900 Hotel Sierra, flight level 230, direct to Robbinsville.
Pilatus 900 Hotel Sierra, Cleveland Center, good evening.
So if you're selecting approach mode and the autopilot is on and you're locked up on the glide slope and localizer, it will take you all the way down to the runway. Legally, you got to disconnect the autopilot at 200 feet AGL, which is decision altitude, decision height, and then you can just hand fly the airplane.
I mean, it's a few seconds, 200 feet, I mean, 3 seconds you land.
Yep. That's right.
Very nice.
Okay, any other questions, or we can wrap up this section of HSI, ADI, AHRS, 6-pack, all the instrumentation. We talked about the navigation, talked about GPS, talked about flight director, autopilot. Covered everything avionics.
Avionics,
basically.
So the WAAS is more precise, basically.
More precise. Now, you can't have a WAAS instrument without the ground augmentation, the ground backup to make it more precise. Like, we don't have that approach in Belmar, so we cannot do a WAAS approach, only a regular GPS approach, which is fine. The weather is beautiful tonight, so we're not going to have any issues. Okay?